Hi everyone. It's only me. This is completely the wrong screen. Let's go back to this. I thought I'd do a little video because I sell games for a living. That's basically what I do. And there's been a new D&D product. Only came out, I think, the other day properly. This isn't it. This is the old one. I want to talk about Dungeon Master screens. Now, when you're playing a role-playing game, one of you is the Game Master, or in Dungeons & Dragons, the Dungeon Master. Now, one of the tools of the trade is this handsome thing here. That is the Dungeon Master screen, and it folds out to all sorts of bits in there, which we'll get to in a moment. This has two purposes. One is to cover the front of what you're doing as a Game Master, so any rolls that you make or any story, the players are going to have a hard time seeing it. Not that they should anyway, the game isn't about cheating, it's about having fun. Now this one, since I think it's May 2014, D&D 5th edition, this has been the default game screen, DM screen, until the other day, where this has replaced it. The artwork isn't as centralised as that one. That's quite cool. But as you can see with these, they do fold out, and there's 4 sections. Don't have enough room. But yeah, there's a lot of sections going on with these. So yeah, the first part of these is they cover what you're doing and sort of hide it. The second part is they come with. Here we go. I'm going to do it. I'm going to get it done. The preparation that went into this video is amazing. They have stuff in them. Now I thought if people aren't sure if they want to get the new screen or stick with their old one, to be honest, there's no right answer. They both do what they do. But I thought we'd have a look at the difference between the two. So, this is the standard screen that has been out since the game, since 5th edition has started. So what you've got here, and this is all for the Dungeon Master's benefit, all for the DM's benefit, this entire thing, I'm going to use a silver sharpie to point at things, is randomly generated non-player character characteristics. So you've literally got the characteristics here. So roll a 120. If you've got a character in game that the players want to talk to, and you haven't thought about how to roleplay him or her, you can randomly generate it. So everything from a basic characteristic, so clumsy, dim-witted, squints, has a pronounced scar, what drives the character in general, any sort of flaws that they might have, and there's a name generator there as well. My head was in the way. So that is just an overall way of introducing an NPC or a non-playable character into the game with some story, a randomly generated name, things like that. However, in the new DM screen, which is called Dungeon Master Screen Reincarnated, they have changed it up a little bit. So that is the first screen there, the first little section of the screen. Now this is the new one. I personally find this way more useful. There is nothing wrong with having that bit. I think that's great. It's a really good way to sort of make a character quite rich, make it maybe a bit more believable if you didn't put time into it beforehand. That's fine. However, if you're not too up on the role-playing side of things yet and you just want to sort of talk about the character, make something up on the spot, I think this is better, especially for new DMs, because this basically tells you how the game works. Very, very simply. So this bit here, actions in combat, it tells you exactly what you can do with your actions when you're fighting people, which is great. So make melee or ranged weapon attack. You can hide, you can ready something, search, use magic items. So it's got all of that there, so it reminds you what you can do, which I think's really good because sometimes I forget, and other players will as well. So they'll ask and you go, oh yeah, sure, certainly, yeah, you can hide, you can cast a spell, whatever you want to do. Tells you about the different things you can do in terms of jumping. And what we've got here is reminds you what concentration is. A lot of spells, example, I run a Wood Elf Ranger that has Hunter's Mark. Hunter's Mark is something you can cast on another like NPC. Calm down. It enables you to track it and it allows you to deal extra damage while it's on as well. So this will sort of tell you what concentration does and how your concentration can break and things like that. And the last bit on here is just things you can do in general in your turn. Move up to your speed, which will be on your character sheet. Take one action, which is all here. Communicate with speech, gestures, or both. Get the hell over here! Something like that. Help me! Interact with one object or feature of the environment as you move, blah 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 blah. So this basically just tells you what you can do in a turn, which I think is great. For me, I prefer that. But this little thing on the first screen, nothing wrong with it at all. I think it's really, really good. So, part the second. Let's flip this over. So this is the first part, the middle of this. This just tells you conditions. So what happens to one of the players, or what the players inflict on an NPC, or whatever. Literally tells you what it is. So if you've got spells that charm or blind somebody, what happens if your character's frightened, what happens when you grapple someone in combat, what petrified means. So if there's a condition that any of the characters, playable or not, suffers from, this tells you what it means, what it does. There you are. So yeah, if you're petrified, quite interesting, the creature is immune to poison and disease, which is great. I didn't know that. So it's just a real awesome way to show it. Now, with the new screen, are you ready? Nothing's changed. They have kept that in, which I think is really, really good because there are so many like ailments a character can suffer from. Even a seasoned DM, which is something I'm not, might forget what the hell is going on. So they've kept that bit in. Look, it's exactly the same. I could make myself a bit smaller here, but I'm not going to. So they've actually kept that bit, which is awesome. So that's great. So what we're going to go and do now is the third bit of this. Going to adjust this microphone. Some microphone? Camera. Haven't had enough water today. That's my problem. Right, so. Problem is with this new arm that I've bought, there's a camera right here. It's on a spring, so whenever I move, the camera goes. Again, you've got more conditions. Tells you what happens. Your character going through levels of exhaustion. So you get levels of exhaustion. If you're level 6 of exhaustion, you die. And this just tells you what happens the more exhausted your character gets. And it tells you about cover. Half cover, 3/4 cover, total cover. What that does for you. So 3/4 cover is +5 bonus to your armor class, which is great. Total cover, you can't be directly attacked by an attack or a spell, which is cool. Obscured areas, what that does, how light in the game. Hang on, no, I'm not going to move myself, I'm going to move the book. I'm going to move the DM screen, that's what I can do. I have the technology to do this. Yeah, so what light does in certain areas and strength of light, so all a candle to a full torch. Setting a DC, the difficulty class? That's what I'm going to call it. If you want to give somebody the chance to do something, I'm sat on my keys, to climb a wall, and you say you want them to do a whatever check, acrobatics check or athletics check or something, you can decide how difficult you can make it. That's what that is. Now, on this screen, I've got some of my friends wanting me to play PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Now, they've changed it a little bit. The left side is the exact same, it's more conditions. But on here, they've got the setting DC at the top, tracking DCs, so if your character can track stuff. Object hit points, so if you're trying to smash something to freak out a guard or something, it tells you how difficult it is and damage you can do to it. So yeah, object hit points, armor class. And this is very, very useful actually. I really like this. Skills and associated abilities. So those are your sort of main abilities to go down the left of your character sheet. These are all your skills and what they lead up to. So if you happen to know that one of the elves is good with their, dexterity or what have you, can go, tell you what, roll an acrobatics check for that. Because you want them to progress. You're not trying to kill everyone. Unless you're horrible, in which case you can do that. So again, look, you can see it's a little bit different. They've got light and skills associated abilities is there as well. But I just think that's a really useful bit, that one. So it's slightly different, that one. The very last page of this, I should say section. So travel pace, so if you're keeping track of, if you're going across great distances, it'll keep track of things like that. At the top here. Encounter distance. Not entirely sure what that means. Audible distance and visibility outdoors I think is really, really useful. If you want to set like fog or something like that, you can show people how far away they are from things. Something happens. Random table to show you if you're like wanting to spice things up in dungeon, you can roll d20. Anything from a door opens to unexplained magic occurs. That is exceptional. And quick finds. So you go through a drawer and you find roll a d12, a tome. It just gives the DM ideas. Now for the new one, this has all sorts of different stuff. It's got the cover again here and the light source. Food, drink and lodging. So if your characters want to stay at an inn to get a long rest to recover all their health and spell slots and that sort of thing. It's all there, how much it all costs. Services, if they want to travel from place to place, you can see how much like a cab will cost. I think that's amazing. The obscured areas here, but I really love this. I think this is very pretty. It tells you the rough size of what creatures are. So some spells will say, you can do this to a medium to large creature. That gives you a rough idea of what those are. So you got tiny to what looks like a bat, could be a bat, I don't know, all the way up to gargantuan, which is some sort of worm type creature. So those are the differences on that last thing. And that's it, I'm done. I just wanted to give you guys a real quick look at the differences between the two. So that is your standard one there. And that one is the new reincarnated DM screen. So it's entirely up to you which one you get. If you have this one and keep it, awesome. If you want to change it up a bit, I personally like the first page of that. I think that's just a lot more useful. For me anyway, because as I say, I'm just starting to DM properly. I'm going to be running a game of Coriolis actually at some point, which has got something similar to this. Full of interesting stuff on the inside of it. But anyway, I'm going to go now. I just wanted to show you the difference between the two. That's it. I'm going to click on this, I'm going to click on this bit, and I'm going to click on this and say bye to everyone. Bye!